The year's first T9 signal sees parts of the city hit with strong winds and powerful waves. Transport largely resumes following Typhoon Noel. And Chinese authorities rescue Vietnamese seamen from a sunk vessel in the South China Sea. Good evening. Welcome to TVB News. Tropical cyclone Noel has moved away from Hong Kong. The gale or storm signal number 9 was in force for 6 hours overnight. At least 21 people have been injured amid the storm, with 331 reports of fallen trees and 8 reports of flooding. Jackie Lin takes a look at the severe weather conditions under T9 in the early hours today.
Noel, the first typhoon hitting Hong Kong this year, began unleashing its full ferocity in the early hours. Under the T9 signal, gales churned the waters along the harbourfront in Kennedy Town, with waves crashing at the shore. As seawater drenched the roads, vehicles had to drive through with more caution. Whipped by gusts and waves for hours, a slab of concrete was swept off the curb. At 10:10 p.m. Saturday night, the city's first number 8 gale or storm signal of the year was issued, before it was replaced by the gale or storm signal number 9 at 1 a.m. But in Tsim Sha Tsui, some citizens still ventured out despite the danger and reminders by the observatory. This man said the gusts weren't that strong, so he could still jog along. Also hit hard was flood-prone Heng Fa Tsuen, with not just hermit crabs being washed ashore, but also precarious sites at construction sites. Even at a sheltered location, our TVB camera gear weighing 40 pounds rattled amid the howling gusts. In Mong Kok, weaker visibility too amid the rain. Multiple districts, including Sai Kung, reported fallen trees during the storm. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
During the day, the weather conditions remain unstable, with railway services disrupted in the morning. Samantha Lowe reports.
In Kennedy Town, the winds remained strong, with some commuters seen navigating the slippery streets with cautious steps. Waves could be seen crashing onto the shores. Some ignored the danger and continued jogging along the waterfront. Others opted for safer routes further inland. Even pet owners ventured out, with some walking their dogs despite the storm. This woman says she had to take her pet dog out for a quick toilet break. The force of the winds was also evident at residential estates, where a ventilation panel has fallen off under the gusts. Some sanitation workers braved the harsh conditions to help clear fallen branches and street debris. Heng Fa Tsuen, meanwhile, appeared calmer than previous years, despite the occasional downpours. After T9 was downgraded to T8, streets in Mong Kok also got busier. In Tsim Sha Tsui, the aftermath of the storm was evident. At 12:40 p.m., the observatory downgraded the signal to strong wind signal number 3. Rail services at Tai Wo MTR station along the East Rail Line was disrupted after a tree collapsed onto the overhead cables, which took longer to repair. Mainland rail authorities announced because of the adverse conditions, all high-speed rail running between Hong Kong and the mainland before 4 p.m. have been suspended. Staff members of the train station are available to answer passengers' questions, and latest updates about train services are broadcast throughout the station. Samantha Lowe, TVB News.
A total of 350 flights were cancelled today due to Typhoon Noel. Flight operations have gradually resumed after noon, while high-speed rail services resumed at 4 p.m. Hiba Khan has more.
The flight information displays at the airport were all glowing red as a horde of travelers were waiting for the latest flight information. Many were anxious about where to go, while others believed they had to stay rational as there was nothing they could do. The airport authority expects to handle 675 flights after the resumption at noon. They reportedly distributed 1,800 electronic taxi queue tickets. At its peak, there were about 400 people waiting. By 4 a.m., most of the travelers had successfully left the airport. The MTR was facing some complications as well, as overhead cables on the MTR East Rail line near Taiwo Station were damaged by a fallen tree. Services were suspended between Taipo Market and Fanling stations, but free shuttle buses were arranged. Repairs were completed at around 2 p.m. and services gradually resumed across the entire line. Meanwhile, the departure hall at West Kowloon High-Speed Rail Station saw a rare empty scene earlier in the day, with all trains before 4 p.m. cancelled. Some travelers chose to wait at the station.
I haven't seen any crazy issues, and it's been communicated pretty well through the news channels and through like WeChat.
We arrived at 9 o'clock, I think. Yes, so we have been waiting a long time. It's like the season for typhoons, I think. So yeah, we knew, but not that today.
It's been really difficult to first get a new train, a new reservation, and then getting connections. So yeah, it's been a huge effect on us. Everyone has been very friendly in the terminal, and they've done what they can. So we looked at the weather and we saw it was going to rain, but we didn't expect it to cancel or affect all the travel.
But a lot of stuff was closed today when we were looking for breakfast and stuff, which was a bit confusing because it was just raining. I tried to look online and I got guided to a page about the different levels of the typhoon. I didn't really say much about the typhoon, when it's coming, how bad the damage is going to be.
Many tourists have had to rebook their trains to the mainland, unfamiliar with the possible effects a typhoon would have on their travels. Going forward, they hope to see more information available online. Hiba Khan, TVB News.
Meanwhile, Macau cancelled all tropical cyclone signals at 5 p.m. Streets are busy with locals and tourists in Macau. Macau authorities say Typhoon Noel will continue to move northwestward into the inland areas and weaken. The local meteorological authorities say the outer circulation of Noel is affecting the territory, bringing heavy showers and thunderstorms. Typhoon Noel made landfall in Huizhou, Guangdong in the early hours of Sunday. It is expected that Noel will enter Hunan on Monday. Noel made landfall in Huizhou at about 3:50 a.m. on Sunday, bringing maximum sustained winds of 162 kilometers an hour. The battering rain and wind severely reduced driving visibility. Debris and fallen trees scattered across the streets. Noel is the first typhoon to make landfall in Guangdong this year. About 710,000 people are evacuated because of the weather. Search and rescue efforts continue near Yongshu Reef in the Nansha Islands in the South China Sea after a Vietnamese vessel sank. Authorities of China's Sansha City say 45 of the 62 people on board have been rescued this far. All those rescued are Vietnamese nationals from the distressed vessel. A rescue ship operated by Nanhai Rescue Bureau of the Ministry of Transport spotted what was believed to be a rocket parachute distress signal from the ship Saturday. 6 Chinese vessels, 1 rescue helicopter and 1 Vietnamese vessel are carrying out search and rescue operations at the scene. Welcome back. The Trump administration has reportedly backed away from plans to ramp up attacks on Iran after nearly 2 weeks of intensified strikes. Despite the Gulf War, tensions further escalated in the region following Houthis' attacks in Saudi Arabia, which could affect a second major shipping route and reignite Yemen's civil war. The U.S. Central Command on Friday said they had disabled merchant vessel MT Levine in the Gulf of Oman after it attempted to run the blockade for at least 4 times. The military then fired into the engine room of the Mozambique-flagged ship. It was the second commercial ship to be disabled since the naval blockade has been reimposed. The American forces claim they have redirected 12 vessels. Iran's Islamic Revolution Guard Corps said they had battered the U.S. military in the past 15 days. The enemy suffered heavy losses, including 11 fighter aircraft and helicopters on the ground, 17 reconnaissance and operational drones, and 1 F-15 fighter jet inside the shelter, according to a spokesman for the Guards. Despite this, the fighting between the two sides abated for the first time in 2 weeks on Saturday, while diplomatic efforts are underway to avert a return to an all-out war. This after US President Donald Trump said negotiations with Iran were pressing on and described them as by far the most serious that they've seen. CNN quoted a Pentagon sources saying the US military campaign was on hold without elaborating on the duration, while a CBS report said Washington's suspension of strikes was meant to avoid disrupting an Omani delegation's visit to Tehran for talks on reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Some Trump aides have reportedly raised concerns of depleting defense stockpiles, alienating allies in the Middle East and affecting energy supplies and the global economy. Meanwhile, the war is spreading into the Red Sea. Earlier on Saturday, Yemen state broadcaster reported strikes on Houthi military sites, including missile and rocket launch platforms and weapons depot in northern Yemen, which killed several Houthis members. On the same day, Houthi rebels, who have declared closing the Bab el-Mandab Strait, announced striking sites belonging to Saudi state oil company Aramco in the cities of Jazan and Yanbu. The Aramco refinery in Jazan, located near the Yemeni border, can process up to 400,000 barrels of crude oil daily. The group said they launched missiles and drones in response to the overnight coalition airstrikes on the Red Sea province of Hodeidah. The Saudi-led coalition said the latest strikes were carried out to retaliate against Houthi attacks on commercial ships, insisting they did not target Hodeidah port and that all Yemeni ports remain open and operational. A spokesman accused Houthis of threatening maritime navigation along the vital route for Saudi oil exports. Professor David Hui of Respiratory Medicine at the Chinese University of Hong Kong says the current wave of COVID-19 and influenza remains relatively mild. But he reminds the viral activity could persist for 3 months. Jackie Lin has the story.
Hong Kong entered the summer flu season earlier this month alongside a resurgence in the coronavirus infections. Speaking with TVB News, Professor David Hui of Respiratory Medicine at CUHK says the viral activity has not yet peaked, noting that the dominant influenza strain now is H1 influenza, which accounts for nearly 40% of the infections. Hui says the K variant of H3N2 is currently driving most infections, but if H1N1 suddenly becomes the dominant strain, the outbreak may be prolonged. Because the community has limited exposure to H1N1 these days, Hui warns it has the potential to cause more severe illness across all age groups. He adds that last year's COVID-19 wave lasted 3 months, from April to the end of June, and this year's outbreak will likely follow the same pattern. For now, the number of schools and care homes experiencing flu outbreaks, as well as the overall mortality rate, remain lower than during last summer's flu season, which Hui says is likely related to increased vaccination rates among children and seniors. The COVID mortality rate has been steadily declining over the past 3 years, dropping from 15 deaths for 100,000 people in 2023 to 1.9 last year. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
The Centre for Health Protection urges members of the public to avoid touching soil or muddy water after rainstorms to prevent contracting melioidosis. CHP says melioidosis is a disease caused by the bacterium Burkholderia pseudomyelii, which is widespread in soil and muddy water. Such bacteria may be exposed on the ground after typhoons and could spread more easily with strong winds and storms. Health authorities say humans can become infected through contact with contaminated soil and surface water, as well as ingestion of contaminated water. Some common symptoms include fever, headache, and chest pain. The Mandatory Provident Fund Schemes Authority, or MPFA, says MPF members aged 65 and using eMPF must complete facial identification to ensure the accuracy of their identity, starting at the end of July. MPFA says the measure is to tackle the abusive behaviour of early withdrawal of MPF, including submitting withdrawal applications by making false declarations or by other unlawful means. Apart from undergoing facial identification, scheme members must also complete step-up authentication through IAM Smart. Members will be asked to submit supporting documents through the e-platform once they have passed the authentication step. The Department of Health urges the public to stop consuming a batch of powdered infant formula after the products were found to contain excessive amount of lead. The affected product is Frisolac Prestige Stage 1 infant formula. While no other batches of the milk formula have been found to have excessive lead content, the Centre for Food Safety of the Food and Environmental Hygiene Department is stepping up surveillance of similar products in the market. Health authorities say high doses of lead may cause abdominal pain and vomiting, reminding parents to take their infants to the doctor if they feel unwell after consuming the affected product. Hong Kong Electric Company's fuel cost adjustment increases 36% month-on-month to 57.3 cents per kilowatt hour, up 15.4 cents from July. Including the basic electricity charge, the average net electricity rate is 185.2 cents per kilowatt hour. The company says international oil prices have surged due to the escalating Middle East tensions, and liquefied natural gas prices have more than doubled since the start of the Iran war earlier this year. The fuel cost adjustment is expected to keep rising for some time. To ease the burden, a special subsidy of 8 cents per kilowatt hour will be offered from August to October for residential customers using 450 kilowatt hours or less per month. After the deduction, the net increase is about 5.2%. And that's the news. Due to the live coverage of the Kerry Fencing World Championships 2026, tomorrow night's main news will start at 8:35 p.m. Join us then.